So we have been pretty much celebrating Mental Health Month, which is May. And this situation right here, the newspapers and the news reporters, they're labeling this a rare occurrence. And the reason why it is a rare occurrence is because this is a Korean woman. It is seldom that a Korean woman, let alone any Korean people, are shot by American police officers. There was a specific reason why these Fort Lee police officers felt that she should be shot, and she was. But when you think about it, isn't it a specific reason why they all shoot people in America? They have specific reasons, don't they? I'm going to try not to be so judgmental, but this is Mental Health Month, and it's the reason why, again, I wanted to play this story.
In body camera video released by the New Jersey Attorney General's office Friday, you see Fort Lee police officers address the brother of 25-year-old Victoria Lee, who had a diagnosis of bipolar disorder and was inside the family's apartment early July 28th.
I'm going to break the door down.
Go ahead, I'll stab you in the neck.
Sir, do me a favor.
We don't want to shoot you. We want to talk to you.
More officers arrive and discuss using lethal versus non-lethal weapons.
Who wants to go less lethal? Who wants to go lethal?
All right,
I'll go lethal.
A few seconds later, they break down the door.
Drop the knife! Drop the knife!
We're freezing the video before police fire a shot, killing Lee.
So they were discussing non-lethal ways of trying to detain this situation. So why didn't they? Why did they choose for the lethal ones? Even though she clearly threatened them, why didn't they use the non-lethal version of what they had? Which is very interesting, but let's continue.
In two 911 calls before police arrived, Victoria Lee's brother tells the dispatcher that his sister is having a mental crisis and asks for an ambulance to take her to the hospital. The dispatcher tells him that police would also have to be sent, and the brother calls back trying to cancel it, but the dispatcher tells him that's not possible.
They were doing everything right. They were doing something that can be very hard for Asian American families, which is to seek help during a mental health crisis for a loved one.
Lee's brother had told the dispatcher that his sister had a foldable knife. It's unclear in the video if she was holding it when police shot her. Her family has maintained she was unarmed at the time.
The police responded aggressively and forcibly entered the apartment and fatally shot Victoria, who was holding a plastic water jar at the time. She was harmless.
It's crazy. It's like the brother almost seen this coming. He tried to cancel the services, but they came anyway. And look what happened. Now, they say in the footage she had a water bottle in her hand. She was harmless. And, you know, I hate to use stories I've heard, but I have to. People had cell phones in their hands, brushes in their hands, pens in their hands, and they still were shot. And remember, she did threaten them, but still, she was having a manic episode of some sort, I believe, or bipolar, I think. But yeah, she was having a situation. So they say it was a water bottle. I couldn't really tell in the footage, but they're not paying attention to if it's a water bottle. They're listening to her threaten them.
Investigation just beginning after police killed a woman during a reported mental health crisis. News 4's Adam Harding is live in Fort Lee with more on what police are saying about the deadly shooting. Adam?
It happened in the apartment building high-rise right behind us here. Tonight, neighbors say they have a number of questions. The Attorney General says police in Fort Lee were called to the Pinnacle high-rise apartment building on Main Street around 1 Sunday morning. A family member calling 911 telling investigators his sister was holding a knife and having a mental health crisis. When an officer arrived, authorities say those inside told them not to come in. Police kept knocking and eventually breached the door. Moments later, they say the woman approached them. It was at that point an officer fired a single shot, striking her in the chest. She was rushed to the hospital but did not survive.
Why do you not shoot her in the knee or shoot her in the hand or tase her? Why do you shoot and kill somebody? You know, that's taking a life. That's a little extreme.
Neighbors say it happened on the 7th floor. The victim's name has not yet been released.
I think I heard something in around midnight, but I wasn't sure. Very safe area around here, and my building has no... it's first time I heard about this situation.
The Attorney General's office now investigating. Their update does not say if the woman was still holding the knife when police walked in.
Oh, God, it's a bit scary. My wife says, hey, look, we got to move out, and, granted, it can happen anywhere, but this is a tough world we live in, and, it could happen where you live, but the fact that it happens on my floor, I said, oh, man, it's a bit disconcerting to say the least.
Investigators tonight say they did recover a knife from the scene. A 2019 law requires the Attorney General's office to investigate anyone's death that happens during an encounter with law enforcement. It also requires them to present their investigation to a grand jury. Again tonight, the woman's name has not yet been released.
No justice, no peace.
Members of the Korean American community gathered in front of the Fort Lee Borough Hall. They're asking for transparency in the investigation of the death of Victoria Lee, who was shot by Fort Lee police officers just over 2 months ago.
We've been waiting for kind of a reaction, kind of a apology or certain reaction from the police department administration, but so far there is no reaction from the public sector.
In the early morning hours of July 28th, officers responded to Victoria Lee's apartment after a 911 call from her brother that she was having a mental health crisis and had a knife.
I'm going to break the door down.
Go ahead, I'll stab you in this neck.
Body camera footage shows the officers talking to her through the door. Moments later,
Drop the knife. Drop the knife.
we froze the footage before police fire a shot, killing Lee. It's unclear if she was holding a knife.
All my family, was inundated by the sadness, sorrow.
Victoria's father, K.Y. Lee, attended Wednesday's rally. He says police briefly interviewed relatives who witnessed the shooting, but he believes a more thorough interview should be completed.
I hope and I believe that they're going to do the thorough investigation of the case.
We requested information on the status of the officers involved, but the prosecutor's office referred us to the Attorney General's office, who referred us to the local police department. The Fort Lee Police Department said they can't comment on the matter and asked us to formally request the information, but that request was later denied. A simple question with no answers. Members of the Korean American community say that officer should be off the force and prosecuted.
Yes, it's a real sad story, because mental health is not a race situation. And I don't want to make this video a race situation because I can't see right now where it's a race situation. I know that mental illness affects all ethnicities, whether you are Black, white, of Asian descent, Hispanic. It's a mental disorder. And this is what Victoria Lee had. So they always say that things need to change, but they've been saying this for the longest. I can go as far back as 30-something years. They have been saying that they're going to change the way that this is when it comes to people in mental health crisis. And more people are having mental health crisis. They are. And they have to figure out a way. Oh, what we're going to do is we're going to put more people on the force that can be able to help de-escalate these type of mental disorders when they come to visit these homes. And no, they're not going to train these police officers to do anything else but what they've been doing. Shoot first, answer later. That's all they want to do. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. This is what they do. This is what they do. They have to do a situation which is very easy. If your loved one is calling because they need help with a family member, when you call 911, they should be able to link you to people right there in the same office, but those people are trained to send people that can assess the situation. Now, why they didn't use the non-lethal bullets, I think that's what they were talking about. Why they didn't use those, I don't know. I don't know. As soon as the door was open, she was shot. And again, I hate to bring it back to race, but this circumstance is a little bit different. We all know the situation with Sonia Massey. That woman was having a mental health episode, but we know that Caucasian cop, he was coming there for some bullshit. He was. He had many chances to leave that home, but it's like he wanted to just stick around. It's like he really was trigger happy. He really wanted to do something. Like he'd been waiting all day to do something. His shift's about to end, and God damn it, there was nothing for him to do. So they answer this last call where there's this little small black woman in the home that's making a pot of tea, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, move that pot off the stove and put it in the sink or whatever." So she goes to do that, and then she says something about God, like, "I rebuke you," being funny. You fucking not, and you guys seen it. Up shooting her right there in her kitchen, and was hoping that it was going to be between him and his partner officer. But he didn't know he had cut off his shit. He cut off his webcam, but his partner didn't cut off his webcam. And I didn't mean to go all the way to Texas to get to Georgia, but the ones that listen to me, they know I do that sometimes. I want to also add Sonia. She was murdered on July 6, 2024, and Victoria Lee, she was murdered a little over 3 weeks later, July 28th. So this happened in the same month, but it seemed that Sonia's case just, I guess, went, more nationwide because I just now heard about Victoria's case. But I had to use that. But that is a slightly different circumstance. But Sonia was suffering from mental illness. Victoria Lee was suffering from mental illness. So I wish, but see, Sonia called on her own self. She said she felt she heard somebody around her house. So again, that's a slightly different circumstance. But in Victoria's situation, her brother was calling because he knew that his sister was going through something and they needed additional help. So it is scary. If you have a loved one that has this type of situation, maybe you can record this situation yourself. And then when this person is, back to somewhat of a sound mind, maybe you take them down to a mental health facility or a hospital and get them help. Try your best to leave the police out of it. You have to really assess your own situation if you can. If your loved one who is going through this mental situation is not being violent towards you or people in the family, but it looks like maybe Victoria Lee was. Look how she was coming at the police through the door, but we don't know really what was going on. And again, it's bad because now we see the community is out there, trying to get her justice. And unfortunately, we're going to see many more cases like this in the news where people with mental health, have been killed. So this is happening, and we're going to see this a lot with people with mental illnesses. We're going to see this a lot, that they are being murdered by cops because the cops don't know how to handle this type of situation. If you ask me, there's a lot of situations these damn cops don't know how to handle. But before I even go there, yes, rest in peace, Victoria Lee, and hopefully her family can get some type of justice. To call the police or not call the police, that is the question.